Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Alain. We're going to talk a little bit about the new movie Coyote vs. Acme. Just came out in the theaters, brand new this weekend. I saw it last night and I enjoyed it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Before we do, I want to mention that I also saw the eclipse last night and it was sort of cool. It was a lunar eclipse. I actually saw it after the movie. And here where we're at in Montana, 90 some percent of the moon was covered. And so you could see the little sliver, tiny little bit that was bright, and the rest of it was sort of an orange. It wasn't completely gone. So you could still see the full circle with just a sliver that was white, and then the rest of it was sort of an orangish color. And so it was sort of cool. Reminded me of the total lunar or total solar eclipse a number of years ago when my wife, daughter, and we drove down into Idaho where we could get inside the band that would get the total solar eclipse, because here in Montana you wouldn't see the total eclipse. So we took a road trip and headed down south into Idaho where we could be inside the total eclipse band, which was pretty cool. And that you needed the glasses and so forth to watch. Obviously, last night with the moon, you could just look up and see it, and it looks pretty cool. So that was sort of interesting last night. Now let's talk a little bit about the movie. I grew up watching Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes. And so this movie was fun to see all of those characters again in this different setting. And it's part animated, part live. So you have the animated characters interacting with the live characters throughout the movie. So you'd be walking down the street and see a real person and see an animated character, and that's just how life is in this world and this setting. And so the real quick premise, you have Coyote, who for years has been using Acme products to try to catch the Roadrunner, with them often ending up with him being blown up or smashed or whatever. They never seem to work correctly. So he's going to sue the company for all of these bad products. And he gets this down in the dumps lawyer, Will Forte, who does a great job. He's funny in just about everything he does. That's going to be his lawyer. And he's going to go up against the biggest company in America, Acme, whose CEO happens to be a foghorn leghorn, and whose star attorney, corporate attorney, is played by John Cena, who does a really good job of playing that evil corporate attorney. So that's the premise. It's this lawsuit, and you just have all of these different Looney Tunes in different roles and stuff. So it was just fun as far as the nostalgia of those characters that I grew up with. And it had some funny points. And I'm a big John Cena fan. I like Will Forte. So I enjoyed the movie. I'm glad they brought it out. And I say that because this movie was actually made back in 19. I'm old. I remember all those movies made back in the 1900s. This movie was made in 2022. So 4 years ago. And they shelved it and they weren't going to release it. And they were going to just have a write-off and not release it. But a lot of people in this different, email and stuff, they finally brought it out and they found a distributor, and now it's in the theaters. And at the very end of the movie, if you watch the credits, you know that I often watch the credits. At the very end, there's a thank you to all of those people that worked to get this brought to the big screen a number of years after they shelved it and they weren't going to release it. I don't know why they made those decisions, because I thought it was a hell of a lot better than Super Troopers 3, which is in the theaters, which I thought was terrible. So, I mean, it's not going to win Academy Awards, but it was a fun movie and it brought back nostalgia, and it was much better than a lot of trash that you see in the theaters. They're just completely awful. So I enjoyed it. When it comes streaming, I'll probably watch it again with the wife. And, she didn't grow up with Looney Tunes like I did, but like I said, it's just sort of a cute, fun movie with the animated characters mingled in with the live characters. Let's say good morning to a few people. Thad's here and say good morning. Thank you, Thad. Hope you're having a good morning. Happy Friday to you. Dixon said, even with a total lunar eclipse, there's still what's called the blood moon. And that's what they had last night, Dixon. It was that orange blood moon with just a sliver. Because I think here in Montana, it was supposed to be like 96%. And so there was just 4% of the moon that was white. And the rest of it was that blood moon, that orange colored. You don't get the total, it doesn't just disappear. And so, but it was pretty cool to see. Dixon also said, so a similar premise as Space Jam in regards to live action characters and animation being mixed. Yes, and like, was it Roger Rabbit, had the animation. I think that was one of the first live characters animation, and Space Jam had it and so forth. It was like that. So you have the animated characters and you have real life people intermixing. When they're in with the Senate hearing, it's sort of funny because you got people as senators, but you also have Elmer Fudd is one of the senators. And so it's just sort of like that. They're, real people are representing Acme, but Foghorn Leghorn is the CEO of Acme. And so it's just a big mix of people and characters like that. And it was just fun to see all of those Looney Tune characters, whether they had a bigger role or just a tiny little spot in the movie. So that's my thoughts. I had fun seeing it. I'm glad they brought it out. I'll probably watch it again when it comes streaming. I hope everybody goes out and has a fantastic Friday. Hope your week has gone well and that you're going to have a fun weekend. One of the last summer weekends. We're coming up to Labor Day, which is sort of the end of summer. A lot of people are already back in school. I know my wife is back at school. Kids are back in school here in Missoula. So summer is winding down. So enjoy this weekend while we still have the nice weather. And I will be back to see you tomorrow, and we will talk about a book or two.